Hey everybody, Derek Ogden here on Risky Business. Want to introduce you to my new friend, Erica Kinnebrew. Erica has a very specific specialty. She's in the ABA, which is Applied Behavior Analysis. Not applied behavioral analysis, it's applied behavior analysis. So Erica is a psychology undergrad with a special education master's, and that's specifically under emotional disturbances and learning disabilities. So why would somebody in the ABA field want to come on a podcast about business management and technology and cybersecurity? Well, Erica has a specific role that she fills with her clients, and that is consulting with these types of businesses, helping them streamline their business, protect their business from downtime, protecting their business from shortages in productivity, keeping up with things as they need to, as far as all the operations of an ABA. These are people that Erica has a heart for and wants to help as far as the patient load and all the things that go into serving this community. So she's going to tell us a little bit about that community, how she got into it, and how she is helping. So Erica, thank you for joining the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
So how did you end up in the ABA field in the first place? What put you down that path for college?
Yeah, it was definitely not a straight path. I didn't even know about behavior analysis when I started. I wanted to become a clinical psychologist, so hence the undergrad degree in psychology. I did learn about Pavlov and behavior analysis to some degree, but didn't really understand the potential job opportunities and the application of the science behind it. It was kind of like a chapter in one course in my undergrad degree. And so then it wasn't until got my master's in special ed, emotional disturbances and learning disabilities. And then we moved from Florida to California, and I met a friend of mine was receiving applied behavior analysis, ABA therapy services for her son with autism. And I remember being at her house with her, and, I had done educational therapy, I had done tutoring, I was teaching. There was even a little bit of mental health counseling in my background. I did a hot second, a couple of semesters in a mental health counseling degree program, decided that's not what I want to do. And I was sitting here watching.
That's tough work.
Yeah, it really is. I was like, this is not for me. But I was watching this magic, because I didn't know at that time what else to call it, in front of me, this person in my friend's home working with her son. And I looked at my friend, her name was April, and I was like, what is this that's happening? This is like magical. And she's like, oh, this is therapy that my son's getting. And then proceeded to tell me like all of the ways that it was helping him. And she introduced me to the owner of the company, and that pretty much set my career off.
So you meet somebody who needs behavior analysis and help. And then you meet the person who's helping them, and that was your inspiration to get into the field.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was. So that just started the path.
So I know you went into a couple of different positions with different organizations that provided those kinds of services. So how did your path end up leading you back to this side of the country?
Well, my path was because I wanted to stay married to my husband, and so he was in the military, so I pretty much had to go wherever he got told to go.
What branch? What branch of the military?
Army. He was in the Army.
Very cool. Well, thank him for his service on my behalf. So you had three different places where you were working in the ABA field.
Mm-hmm.
And what were your experiences there that led you to go out and work on your own and help others?
Yeah, so from California, let's see, he was stationed at Fort Campbell, and like right on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. And so I opened a clinic there for the owner of the company that my friend was receiving services from. I worked as a technician, which is, back then they called them tutors, but basically it was like the entry level position. And I got my hours and my coursework and everything to sit for my exam. So I became a board certified behavior analyst. And then I worked in Tennessee for a very short time. Let's see, what is the timing of this? We moved, my husband was stationed in Fort Meade in Maryland. So we moved, and then I sat for my boards. And then I decided that I was going to open my own clinic. There were very specific goals that I had and ways that I wanted to do some things. And so that was the first of 3 separate companies that I ended up opening over the course of about a decade.
So now you're consulting for ABAs after having all this experience of working for a great one, starting a couple great ones. What makes them
Exiting.
great? Knowing how to make them great and knowing how to help other people do the same thing for theirs. So what is your overall strategy when you're walking into an ABA that is already existing? What are you looking for when you walk into a place like that to see if they're a good fit for your services and consulting?
Yeah, well, there's 2 sides, right? And they're not mutually exclusive. It's not like you can make one great and ignore the other and you have a good company, or vice versa. They have to be addressed together. And those 2 sides are the business operations and the clinical operations. So I would say on the business, a lot of them are clinician run. So a lot of them are focused on the clinical side, and it is healthy. But maybe more business type aspects of the clinical side, like clinical compliance, that might come into play. So my focus is really coming in and saying, all right, let's dig in on all the things that you did not learn in your master's program, right? Like, let's look at where are your financials? What is your forward projection for growth? What does your cash flow look like? What is your org chart? When can you hire different people? And do you have a plan for all of that stuff? So, and a lot of that is, most of these clinician run businesses are really flying blind and leaving all of the financial business aspect in their accountant's hand, right? Like their accountant meets with them once a month, once a quarter, and gives them numbers. But it's just numbers like a generic P&L. Here's the revenue that came in. Here's your expenses. But what it doesn't have is, for our particular field, what are the revenue drivers? Do you understand even what's making the revenue? Do you know how to optimize it? So that's really where I start, the financial side.
Yeah, and if you don't have money coming in, you don't have a business. If you don't have a business, you're not helping anybody. So it's
right.
Zig Ziglar had a saying that he used to say. It was, money isn't the most important thing in the world, but it is reasonably close to oxygen, right? So it's something you need to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
So in these businesses, when you go in and you're working with the ABA, they're often clinician run, like you said, and most of these people have a heart for this mission that aren't really focused on the business. So they're looking at things like, how do we help a bunch of kids? How do we help a bunch of families? How do we, make those families better, to make the world a better place for them? But things get missed. So one of the things that we've seen a lot of is they're missing compliance stuff, like you mentioned, clinical compliance, right? Like HIPAA, or state things, whatever, depending on what state they're in. If they're in California, they're going to have additional health standards they have to meet as far as record keeping and stuff like that. And on the IT and cybersecurity side, we're always seeing generally a total lack of anything. Most of the time when we go into these places, they've purchased a couple computers from the box store, set them up. Everybody's logging in as user. The password is password. And
it's on a sticky inside their desk drawer or like on their computer.
Yeah. And we see that a lot of different places, but where it's really scary is when you're dealing with a lot of patient information, a lot of financial information, things like that. And then you take with the ABA, you're dealing with children. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with their information, their parents' information, their health insurance info, financial info, and it's kind of like this perfect storm of personally identifiable information, personally identifying information, personal health information, possibly some credit card auto billing in there. I mean, it's kind of a tornado of data. and a really easy,
tornado of data.
and it's a really easy target for
Right.
cyber criminals because they're not going to have that organization flow in place because it's difficult to do that when you're starting up. But so you have some software that you've been building. You're already, this software is already rolled out and you're applying it, right? You're already using it.
Yes, we're in beta with users in it. So we're revenue positive. Break even? No, but revenue.
It takes a while, especially in software.
Right.
But so your software is, of course, all softwares are there to solve a problem. So on its initial rollout, and I know you have more goals. I know you're going to always have things that you're more additional problems you're going to eventually solve with your application. But what problems are you solving right now with the software? Which is, by the way, tell us the name of the software and all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called ABA Engine. And you're right. I have a very long list in my head of where this is going to go. And we're just at the beginning of it. Big picture, we'll have 3 distinct applications and they will connect together. We have them all in some form, but the one right now that's in production with users is an intake and scheduling optimization software. So optimizing the intake process when clients first request services all the way through to when their direct services start. There's so many steps that have to occur and different hands in an organization that would touch that. Like it gets passed off to the clinic, it gets, the intake team and then passed to the credentialing or the authorization team to request an authorization and then pass the clinical team to do the assessment, then pass back to request the direct service ops. So it's like just back and forth. And so building a software that follows that with workflows in a way that makes more sense and optimizes it so we can look at and tell you timelines. If most businesses right now don't know if a family calls and says, hey, I want services, when can you get me in? They're like, I don't know, we'll put you on our waiting list. Well, how long does it take for you to get a client through intake? We don't know. So those data points aren't known. So that's part of the solution to the problem. Visibility and then optimization to get clients into services. And the flip side of the coin is it's not just the clients that have to get into the services. It's also, you have to have a provider available to work with them. And because it's a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times an intensive service model, you're hiring a direct line staff, which means now you have to train them also. And that can be several week to month process. So it's just hard to manage.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for families who need the services like now, as soon as possible. They need to start making improvements in their behavior. They need to start changing the way that things are happening like ASAP. These families are often suffering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they need to start to get some relief. Meanwhile, when I go to the doctor's office, they're like, they call me in. I get there at 9:00 and I sit there until 9:45, and then I leave. And I still haven't seen my doctor, and I'm angry because they're disorganized. They don't have their schedule disorganized. So they don't have their schedule organized. They don't know when to get me in. If I call the Tire Kingdom up the street and tell them I need tires, they'll say, oh, be here at 9:15.
Right.
I will not wait. The truck goes right on the rack. They put new tires on, they're right out the door because they have that good, solid software where everything is planned and optimized, and you're not sitting there waiting. You go in, you have a couple cups of coffee maybe, and watch an episode of a talk show, and you're gone, right? So having that set up is necessary for any business. It's 2023. Everybody wants to be in and out quickly. For tires, if they want it for tires, they're going to expect it. And if they're getting it for tires, they're going to expect it at a professional medical provider, or especially when they're dealing with their child, right? So what's more important than our medical care? Our child's medical care, right? So it's hugely important. So the optimization and scheduling side, and then what other areas is ABA Engine delving into?
So the reality in our field is that the demand for our services as a fairly young field has grown just at an astronomical pace, outpacing the increase of new therapists coming into the field, even though that has been a very high, very, also astronomical in the speed in which we're adding board certified behavior analysts, and the entry level staff are called registered behavior technicians. So the reality is right now, I'd have to go back and do the math on this number again, but I've heard it thrown around and I believe it's probably pretty close to accurate. We can serve about 40% of the current demand with the number of currently certified behavior analysts available and accounting for like what they can carry as a caseload, about 40% of the demand. So there is this reality, my software wants to obliterate waiting lists. I hate that families are sitting on waiting lists. And there is a truth that the earlier you can get services, the better for the child and for the family. And so we're losing precious time for these kids. And I think that even though the truth is that the demand is there and it far outstrips what we can provide services, the number that we can provide services for, there's still, I think, this reality that we can optimize further on the business side. And if we would get our crap together a little bit more, could we get in one more kid, two more kids, three more kids? I think we could multiply that by all the businesses and all of the businesses' locations, where they operate. And you're bringing in hundreds of more kids who otherwise would be missing out on those hours and they'd be sitting on waiting lists. So that's really the mission of what I'm building. It's to say, hey, listen, I understand that as a business owner, the demand is there and it's so beautiful, right? So do you really have to put a lot of effort into optimizing? I guess not if you look at it from that standpoint. But if you look at it from the standpoint of, but if you did, you could impact more children's lives, and that's a completely different story.
Yeah, and that's the problem with businesses that are in a huge upswing in the economy. I always say, we deal with a lot of different people across a lot of different industries, and one of the things that I always tell them, any business owner, especially young people, is you don't lose your business when the economy is bad. You lose your business when the economy is good, right? What I mean by that is,
you rest on your laurels.
You blow off your old customers. You go after all the people that are coming in the door, beating your door down, and you're raising your prices up, and you get cocky, and you're maybe not providing as good a service, and then the economy dips out a little bit, and you're gone overnight. As soon as somebody else comes in down the street from you and provides better service, that's when it happens. So. As the curve of ABA facilities and ABA therapists are able to start catching up with the demand, it's the people who really have it together, have their crap together, as you said, are the ones that are going to be able to hang in there. And
right.
Optimization, scheduling, software implementation is not something that happens overnight. Securing your business and adopting these cultural changes like being secure, being disciplined about your HIPAA, being disciplined about your scheduling and your customer service. This is a cultural change that has to happen in your business. If it's not already built into the foundation, you have to do some demo and maybe tear up some of the foundation and rebuild in a lot of different ways. That doesn't happen overnight. So if it's not something that businesses are doing now, the time to start is always yesterday. So you've got the optimization covered, see more kids, take care of more families. We've got the, and then on the financial side, are you doing anything with like the medical billing or anything like that to help with that side of things, or is?
Yeah. So, there are practice management platforms that are in the space, and there are a couple new ones that have come out, that are even better than what we had before.
Are you integrating with those, or are you
Yes.
providing that service? Okay.
No, we're integrating. So that's kind of our focus is we're focused on that very beginning process from first touch of a client, first touch of a new employee, all the way through until they do their first session, whether that's the child receiving a session or the employee providing the session. And that part is really where our focus is. And then, yes, we're integrating with practice management platforms.
That's smart. Stay in your lane with as far as what you're focused on and what you're good at, and it's going to get the people into the practice management system faster, which is the whole point. So once they're in the practice and they're being seen, your job is done. It's excellent.
Right.
So talk a little bit about your consulting services. I know you also personally will work with ABAs to help them optimize things, even if they're not going to use the software, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. So I consult, I have different options available, mostly for medium to larger size businesses. I'm doing one-on-one consulting where most of it centers around really deep dives into financials, understanding, why they're losing money or how they can optimize or whatever, helping them kind of pick through what's going on financially. And then growth. So looking at market analysis, helping them decide what's the right next location for us to move into. And then what does that pro forma look like? What's our break even point? What is the cost going to be to start this up? And so those are the two main parts. I am doing some leadership training. I've got a couple executive teams that I'm working with, focused specifically on leadership training, and done a little bit of kind of looking at policies and procedures and organizational charts as you scale. So, and then I also have a business owners community specifically for applied behavior analysis business owners. And I've got about 140 businesses, and it's a completely separate app. And it's just a support group. So I bring in expert, you guys are going to come in and do a webinar for us. I bring in experts from outside of the field for the business owners so that they can have access to that information and continue their learning on the business side of things. I have courses built out also for them. And then we do group consulting calls, and we're kicking off a couple different ones. There's a insurance whisperers group that we're starting to help support with all things insurance companies. And then we're doing a social media, personal branding group is going to be kicking off here shortly. So lots of different things in that app.
I think until you're a business owner, you can't really understand the importance of a business owner support group.
That is the truth.
It's, we're in peer groups that are in different areas, cybersecurity, IT services, low voltage, like all these different areas, and every different area has their own gripes about things. But, one of the nice things to have in those groups is, hey, we just got this letter from this provider that's saying, like yes. You would mention to insurance, right? We just got this letter from this insurance company that says they're no longer covering this kind of thing. What are you guys doing? And then you get, a couple hundred people replying to your post saying, hey, we're watching this post because we want to know the same thing, or here's what we did, or just got off the phone with my lawyer and this is what he said, or whatever, right? So it's a nice thing to be a part of and have in your back pocket as a business owner. So that's probably a much larger value than people realize. So definitely, if you're watching this and you're an ABA, join up with Erica's group for sure. And then on the consulting side, do you help with startups? Or do you engage with people that want to form an ABA institution? Or
I have in the past with people who are interested in entering the space who have money behind them. Typically, if it's a clinician who's looking to start up, the group would probably be a better bet for them. There are some people in our field who do more like the startup and single clinician kind of focused consulting. So I will kick stuff to them instead.
That's good. So even if you do it, you can point something in the right direction. So that's good. One of the things that we've had to address in a lot of places is not just the technical stuff with HIPAA, but also what's allowed to be laying on a desk when you walk away from it, that kind of stuff. Just the overall paperwork management for HIPAA. Do you work with any HIPAA consultants, or do you do any HIPAA consulting to help with that kind of stuff?
So I haven't. I did go through, this was years ago, shortly after I started my companies, but did go through, I forget who runs it because all I can remember is my great big huge happy HIPAA binder. That's like literally all I can remember. But we went through this whole process to kind of look at all aspects of our business and put like policies and procedures or um, whatever was needed in place um, to make sure we were protected.
Well, one of the big things that's happening this year, the last update to the HIPAA regulations was the omnibus ruling back in, I think it was 2013. So we've had, we're expecting a lot of regulatory changes and a lot of new rules and standards to come out because the last 10 years, a lot has happened, but the last 2.5 years of that period, so the last 25% of this last decade has been like a hockey stick for cybercrime, for identity theft, for health and data theft. So we're keeping an eye out for those updates to come out because they said they were going to release the new HIPAA guidelines this year. So something to keep an eye out for. And I'm sure the people in your group will be interested in hearing about them.
I remember the biggest headache for me with HIPAA when we very first started was we didn't have software at all. And we had binders at clients' homes with all the data in it. And so then there was this big question of, well, if it's in the family's possession, who's responsible for the medical data? And can we actually leave it at their home? And if we don't leave it at their home, then we have to transport it. Then you've got, 50 employees transporting medical data in their cars. Like when we went through this whole thing, my brain was exploding. I'm like, well, what's the solution then? And thankfully, we had some software solutions come out very quickly. But I mean, the solution, even with the cybercrime, I think is still better to have have your stuff online instead of paper copies.
Digitally, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you have to have a password on your company laptop that's 12 or more characters or something like that. It's I think that's easier to deal with when you go to the gas station. You have to lock your car because somebody's binder could get stolen out of the back of it with all the info. Like that seems like worse.
Yeah, well, it was two locks, right? So it wasn't just one lock. The locked car door wasn't enough. There had to be two locks.
So you had to have it in like a locked case, like one of those old like doctor's
briefcases. Which is funny because, or you just pick the case up. Like the whole thing was not going to be working, but yeah.
Yeah, you're just going to pick the case up and walk away with it, right? And go work on the lock at home.
Right. So what, are we going to install a safe in the back of everybody's car now?
And was that a governmentally, like a regulatory induced thing? Or was that something that your employer said, this is how we're going to handle this? Or was this a HIPAA?
Well, I was the employer.
Right. So
it was.
Is this something you had to do because of HIPAA or was it?
Yeah, it was HIPAA. And it was like a hot second because very quickly going through all this, I was like, no, we're finding software.
We're going, guess who's going paperless?
We're not doing this anymore. Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of issues with, the older insurance companies years ago, right? And they were, we're never going to go paperless. We need to have all these policies on hand. We need to have the printed copies of it. And, 15 years ago, people trusted their hard drives a lot less, or, digital storage wasn't a trustworthy place to put anything because, hard drives would spin out and blow up and then all your data's gone, right? And then even still, you plug in a backup to it, you're backing everything up, and then, there's a roof leak and everything gets wet and everything is gone, right? Yeah. But now these days with cloud backup and redundant cloud backup, like we have clients that we can't even get cyber insurance for unless they have a cloud backup and a local backup and it's encrypted and it's redundant. Like there's all these layers of security because, well, now we've all gone paperless and nobody has any filing cabinets anymore in their office. I have one file cabinet. It's right here. It's got 2 drawers in it and it's got mostly like my junk, like ink cartridges and office supplies and stuff. So like, everybody's paperless now and it's way easier. It's just way easier to be able to pull up any document you need to on your laptop. But there is that danger. There is that danger of them walking away at the airport. while you're waiting for a flight, somebody picks up your laptop case and takes off with it. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
But you want to make sure it's secured so they can't get into you, that data. So, all right. So, Erica, as we're wrapping up here, what can we leave our ABA business owners and operators, listeners with to get a hold of you?
Sure, absolutely. So if you're looking for consulting, need support on the business operations, financial side of your business, you can email me at erica@abaengine.com, and it's ERICA. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Erica Kinnebrew, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can check out our website, abaengine.com. If you're interested in the software, there's my calendar link is on there. You can book a demo. If you're interested in consulting, you could also check out just my personal website, which is just my name, ericakinnebrew.com.
Awesome, Erica. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, and we'll be talking again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.